For as long as I can remember, I've been a huge Spider-Man fanboy. I would say one of my earliest memories just in life was when I was in preschool and I was coming home from school for the day. And when I was walking through our front door, I saw the DVD menu screen for Spider-Man 1. You know, the classic one with Tobey Maguire. For those who aren't cultured, the menu for that movie is sick because it shows Spider-Man just swinging through New York. And I thought that was the coolest thing I've ever seen. You gotta remember, I was in preschool. I don't think I've really seen anything other than like bowls of cereal and me noticing that the moon was constantly following us during the day. And I wouldn't even be surprised if I thought it was real at first. Anyways, welcome. It is I, Jacob from the CosmicCast, and this is indeed my very own solo episode. The solo episode to end the saga of solo episodes. At least I think. I don't really know. I'm not making the rules here. I don't think any of us are. What we do the next time one of us isn't able to record is beyond me, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. This entire episode is going to be dedicated to my love for Spider-Man, since no one really wants to hear me complain about how hard my life is, and I don't really have any other prospects. Let's be real for a sec. So Mr. Bomb Squad Man will have to do.
Leave it for the Bomb Squad. Yeah, whatever. From now on, I am the Bomb Squad.
So if you're not a Spidey fan, I would probably skip this episode. Or you can skip to the end of the episode for a repetitive fermented piss joke or something. I don't know, man. We're just kind of going with the flow. Come on. Live a little. All right, come on. Stretch. Come on. Move around. Shake those hips, man. Or woman. I'm kind of coming up with this as we go, but my plan is to have the Spider-Man games be the overarching topic, and hopefully spend some time discussing Insomniac's Spider-Man 2, since it's the most recent installment and probably the most prevalent in my life currently. So like I said before, I was exposed to Spider-Man media at a young age, and I quickly fell in love with it. I still remember Christmas morning 2004 when I unwrapped a present from under the tree, and inside was Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2 on DVD. And the moment I realized what it was, I wanted to stop opening presents right away because I had to watch that movie. I don't believe I knew it even existed before I unwrapped that present, and I was too young to comprehend how movies worked. It was just magic. So of course I was like, yo, Mom, to be honest with you, dog, we're gonna have to put this whole Christmas thing on pause for a sec. I'm crashing out. We need to lock in and watch this movie. Finna for real, dog. 100. And my mom was like, word? And yeah, we probably watched Spider-Man 2. I could be misremembering that a little bit or embellishing the story. It's puffery, I do say. You guys know what puffery means? I need you to pause real quick, and I need you to go on Google, and I need you to search up the definition for the word puffery. That's a fun word that you have in your arsenal now, right? You should use that one. I, for some reason, learned it like a month ago, and I still use it pretty often. Around this time, I was just getting into having access to a PS2. In fact, I remember my dad and I going to Circuit City to buy Grand Theft Auto San Andreas for the PS2 when it came out. And sadly enough, I actually was able to play it. In fact, I played it a lot. I loved GTA San Andreas, as you probably know. Look, man, playing GTA San Andreas at 4 years old was a lot different than a 4-year-old playing GTA 5 today. The graphics and the story and just the overall language just wasn't the same back then as modern day video games. I stand by that, and I think I'm a better person because I was able to play that game back then. Anyhow, on top of all the GTA games and I think Finding Nemo on PS2, I also played a lot of Spider-Man on PS2. Like, I played the shit out of it. Now, I'm talking about the original 2002 Spider-Man game right now, but back then, that game was pretty badass. You know, I don't think I was really ever able to get past the Shocker or Scorpion level back then. I did eventually beat the game when I was, I want to say 9 or 10 years old. But yeah, you know, like I said, I definitely played that game to my heart's content. But to rewind to back then, everything was about to change. When I was at Circuit City, again, with my mom and dad this time, we were walking around the game section for my dad. And that's when I noticed Spider-Man 2 for Xbox sitting right there on the shelf. Again, I had no idea this game existed. So of course I grabbed it and I begged my parents for it. But then I realized it was the Xbox copy and I was like, well, dang, I don't have an Xbox. So I was pretty bummed until probably a minute later when I found the PS2 copy. However, we ended up getting the Xbox copy because my dad bought the one and only original Xbox. Now, as a kid, I couldn't believe my dad bought an Xbox just so I could play Spider-Man 2. But then when I got a little older, I realized it was actually my dad buying himself an Xbox. And my memory is fuzzy, but I do believe that may have been what he went there to buy, and I just didn't know it. Which right now in real time, I am looking up the Xbox. For some reason, I thought this came out in 2005. It actually came out in 2001. At least in North America, and then early 2002 for like Japan and some other countries. So anyways, we're getting off topic. So it clearly wasn't like a brand new console or anything at the time, but it was still like, sick. But yeah, since my dad bought the Xbox, it was in the living room, I just got to play the hell out of it. We got all the classics for the Xbox 2. We bought Spider-Man 2. We bought GTA San Andreas. To tell you I played a lot of Spider-Man 2 would kind of be an understatement. I played the ever-living crap out of this game, especially if you don't just include like back then when I was 4. Like we're talking from then to now, as well as GTA San Andreas, of course. We can go in circles about this. I clearly have a deep relationship for these games, and they really kind of formed me, at least the way I love and play video games, especially story-based video games to this day. I love me a good co-op game, but I still just, oh man, you can't beat a good story-driven game for me. I love it. I'll replay the same story again and again and again. And this actually is prevalent. This will come up later, so I'm glad I'm mentioning this now. Just keep that in your mind. Just let that rattle in there. Just enjoy it. Just let it free ball in there. Bloop, it's in there. All right, cool. You good? All right. If we want to continue stroking my nostalgia boner, we can also talk about how much I loved Spider-Man content, like movies and shows and stuff. Now, I had the DVDs for the first 2 Spider-Man movies, but for any other content, the way I would consume it was I would get a chance to rent it at a DVD rental store like once a week. I pity you guys who weren't around for this era. You and your parents going to the DVD store every Friday after school and just getting to pick whatever you wanted to watch, basically. And I don't know if it came with the movie or if you bought it extra. I want to say it came with it, but whenever you would rent a movie from this DVD rental store, like they gave you like a thing of microwavable popcorn to take home. At least I have memories of having that. I don't 100% remember. I don't know if it was a Blockbuster or Hollywood Video, and it could have been its own chain. I miss those days sometimes, but you can't beat streaming, so I'll just shut up. Anyways, wow, another tangent. But another tangent aside, I often rented the 90s Spider-Man cartoons, and I would watch it throughout the entire weekend. Like I have a distinct memory of my mom waking me up and just giving me just a couple powdered donuts. And I got to watch the 90s Spider-Man while I ate my food. And then oh man, I loved it. Also during this time, you'd often find me just running around the house with the Spider-Man costume I wore for Halloween one year. And I will say, I climbed some sketchy places around the house. And to this day, I'm kind of surprised I never fell and busted my head open. Well, who knows? Maybe I did and forgot. And that's the reason why I act the way I do on the podcast. You're welcome, America. Fast forward a few years, I remember being at my grandparents' house for Christmas one evening, and we started opening presents, and I unwrapped the present, and inside was the ultimate Spider-Man for Xbox. I, once again, had no idea this game existed, but I was stoked when I realized what it was. For good reason, too, because I'll die in this hill that despite how good and how much I love Spider-Man 2, I'm sure you do too, The Ultimate Spider-Man is a superior game. That is my potentially hot take for the day. Take it or leave it. Because of its comic book graphics, I still think the game holds up to this day. The web swinging is almost the same, if not a little better than Spider-Man 2. It's definitely more refined. It's easier for the average player. Plus, getting to play as Venom, I mean, come on. How is this game not a certified banger? You literally get killable children. Anyway, again, fast forward another year or so. Spider-Man 3 comes out. The movie, this one. I remember walking into a theater to watch a movie. I don't remember what movie it was. And it was during when the ads were playing. And it seemed like an ad for a horror movie was playing. Like it was dark and moody, and like I was actually like kind of scared. And so I realized, wait, what the hell? It's Spider-Man. It was a Spider-Man commercial. Because as you know, he gets the symbiote and he becomes edgy. He becomes Bully McGuire. So I was like, holy shit. they're making Spider-Man 3. I'm hyped. At this point, I had limited access to YouTube, and I do remember rewatching the trailer for the movie a lot. Oh man, good times. Eventually, it came out, and my dad took me to go see it. And it was, of course, a banger movie. I don't care what the critics say. It holds up pretty good in the Raimi universe. It was just a bit misunderstood. And Sam Raimi was forced to shoehorn in Venom, which is what made that movie so chaotic. But we're getting off track. Anyways, my dad and I were at an outdoor mall where this movie theater was, some kind of outdoor mall or complex. And right next door to the theater was a GameStop. And as a surprise, after we watched the movie, my dad took me into the GameStop and then he bought me Spider-Man 3 for PS2. This game didn't really hold up like Spider-Man 2 or Ultimate Spider-Man did, but I still had fun and I was stoked. I was like, cool, Spider-Man. That ended up being it for Spider-Man for a while as the Sam Raimi movies were done and not many games came out for a little while. I did, however, eventually get my dad's original PS3 in 2011, I want to say, which was years after it came out. But it's fine. And the reason I got it was because I realized that Spider-Man Web of Shadows existed. And I remember being out with my grandparents that summer and I would just watch gameplay footage and just kept watching and watching. I was like, man, the story is so cool. I want to play that so bad. What the heck, man? What the heck, mom? Why aren't I playing this game? So remembering that I had a Nintendo Wii, but it was somewhere like an off-site storage unit, I begged my mom for my birthday if we can go get the Wii from the storage unit. And that's all I wanted. And then I believe for my dad, for him to get me Web of Shadows for the Wii, because I had to play this game. I really wanted it. Luckily, it worked out even better because instead I got a PS3, which is way cooler. And then I got Web of Shadows for my birthday. And for a while, I actually probably considered Web of Shadows as my favorite game, at least for a good couple years. Even after I got Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions, I don't think it really stacked up to Web of Shadows. Being able to switch from the classic and symbiote suit just went at will was so cool. And you got to decide whether or not you made good or evil choices. Seriously, you could literally rip Wolverine in half towards the end of the game. So sorry, spoilers, the game's been out for almost 20 years. Get over it. And watching New York become a genuinely post-apocalyptic, like zombie wasteland, basically, it was nuts. Like that game, despite being a Spider-Man game, actually kind of scared me. Not scared me as in like, oh, I'm afraid to play this game, I'm not gonna play it, but just like, wow, like I actually feel uneasy and like uncomfortable just webbing around New York. Like I'm like kind of freaked out with what's going on. Any Spider-Man game to this day still hasn't really beat that. Like that feeling only came from that game for me. And I think that's sick. But again, we're getting a little off topic. So now let's go back to when I was talking about Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions. I want to reminisce a little bit on the story and how I got it. It's a short little story, but my mom wasn't really known to just unpromptedly buy me gifts for no reason other than like if it was my birthday or it being Christmas, which is fine. I'm sure that was the case for most of us. Shouldn't really over spoil your kids. However, my mom picked me up from school one day, and when we got in the car, she hands me a new copy of Shattered Dimensions. Again, unprompted. I don't even remember if I asked for it. I wanted it, but I don't even think I got to the point where I was like, yo, mom, can we get this game? So because of that, I had no reason to expect it. So I was just stoked. I'm like, hell yeah. I get to go home and play this new Spider-Man game that I wanted. But now we're starting to get a little closer to present day. So bear with me a little longer. I'm actually going to brew a cup of coffee. I know it's 6:50 p.m. while I'm recording this, but I just got to lock in on this thing. So, hey, I'll be right back. All right, let's continue, class. So a few years later, The Amazing Spider-Man comes out with Andrew Garfield, and I was pretty stoked to go see it in theaters. I got to see it with my aunt and my cousins, and although it did take some convincing because I guess my cousins weren't really down to see it as much as I was. They were older teens at this point, so the novelty of like, oh, cool, Spider-Man wasn't really a thing, I guess. But I mean, like, I don't know, I'm 24, nearing 25 at this point, and I still have the same reaction to any Spider-Man content to this day, so maybe they're just lame. But anyways, whatever. We got to see it, and I was among the minority of people that loved the movie. I loved Andrew in it. I thought he was great. I know minority is a strong word there. Obviously, a ton of people loved Andrew in it, but a lot of people at the time, especially, were pissed that the Tobey movies are over, and now that it's this new guy, Andrew Garfield, they didn't feel he was really a Peter Parker. He's like, oh, he's too tall, he's too handsome, he rides a skateboard, whatever. So in my opinion, a lot of people didn't really care for Andrew Spider-Man as much until No Way Home. However, I was not among that crowd. I am a OG, bro, and I'm proud of that. For my birthday, I asked for The Amazing Spider-Man for the PS3. Yeah, we're moving on to the PS3 now, boys. Come on, only 2 more consoles to go. And for the most part, I wasn't really disappointed. I thought it was all right. The web swinging was a bit boring and the graphics were kind of bland, but overall, I actually had a pretty good time playing that game. I definitely replayed that game 2 or 3, maybe 4 times. To my knowledge, there's 2 more games after this, and these 2 games I did not get. And one was Spider-Man Edge of Time, which was a game I did kind of want. It was sort of a sequel to Shattered Dimensions, sort of, I think, but I never ended up getting it. And then similar story with The Amazing Spider-Man 2, except I didn't really want the game as much because I got a chance to rent it on Redbox. Rest in peace. And I got to play it a bit over the weekend and it was like, it's all right. You know what I mean? Maybe I'll ask for it. It'd be cool. But I never ended up getting it. But now all this leads up to current day. Well, not current day, but current day. And I would argue that we may be talking about the greatest Spider-Man game of all time. Again, this is subjective, but also it should be objective. In the summer of 2016, Insomniac, the developers behind games like Ratchet and Clank, announced they were making a Spider-Man game. Wow, it makes me kind of sad that it's almost been 9 years since that announcement. I didn't really know much about Insomniac at the time other than the fact that they did make Ratchet and Clank, but I was just excited to see a new Spider-Man game come out. And it wasn't a movie tie-in game. Although with the timing of it kind of being close with Civil War and with Homecoming coming out kind of soon after, it was kind of surprising that it was just like a brand new IP. I don't know if IP is the right word there or if I should just say franchise, but you know what I mean. It's crazy because I remember being pretty excited for the game, but I wasn't like jumping up and down because I had no expectations. I didn't really know what to expect at first. But the wait for this game was brutal for me by early summer of 2018. At this point, we had E3 footage and the game looked sick and the web swinging looked like it was the best web swinging we had yet. I was excited, man. I was a senior at high school during this time, and I remember watching the E3 gameplay footage just often in my video game design class in anticipation for the game. In that class, it was mostly a fuck around class. We rarely got major work done. So I remember like every once in a while, I'd be like, oh, I'm bored. Let's just pull up this E3 footage of Spider-Man swinging through New York, chasing a helicopter. That shit was sick, man. And soon after, I graduated high school and I had to keep myself preoccupied for the rest of summer while I waited. Lots and lots of gooning, bro. Lots and lots of gooning. I'm kidding. I didn't go to college, so I didn't really have a lot going on at the time. Soon after the game finally came out, I brought it home and it was like going to Disneyland for the first time as a kid or a fresh buzz from a beer after a long week at work with the bros. Only half of you will probably relate to that one. I remember I finally installed the game and I started playing it and I think I played from 5 p.m. through 1 a.m. straight, maybe even 2 a.m. I think I only stopped to eat dinner for like 10 minutes. I inhaled a Chipotle burrito or something. I don't remember. It felt as if no time passed, man. It was just like I was enthralled. I remember going out on a hangout with some friends the next day, and the entire time I was just daydreaming about being at home playing Spider-Man the entire time. It was like, I love you guys. I'm having a blast, but like this is the one time where my mind is not here. I just don't care about this hangout. I want to go back home. My love for this game is immeasurable, and I've beaten the game probably at least 8 to 10 times since it's released, and I still love it every single time I play it. Now, Insomniac Spider-Man 2 is an amazing game, and it improved in a lot of aspects, but it still doesn't match up to this game, and we'll dive into that here in a bit. From the amazing gameplay to the tears from the phenomenal ending of the first Insomniac Spider-Man, my life was changed after beating that game. And it felt just as good when I restarted the game the next day after I beat it for the first time. And this game was actually the first game I ever platinumed on PlayStation. It's perfect because it's that perfect line of like, hey, you actually got to play it and kind of earn it, but like, it's not hard. You don't have to fucking climb Mount Everest and then convince Thanos to give the Infinity Stones to your mom so she can make sure you fucking do your goddamn homework. Even though it was sad that the fun was over, once I beat the game, it was not such a big deal because we all knew that there's going to be 3 DLCs coming out soon after, which would give us more gameplay and story. Soon after I beat the game, I got my driver's license, my first car, and I started my first job at Target. I still remember the one suit we all wanted in the game, which was the Sam Raimi, Tobey Maguire suit. And I gotta tell you, I remember Reddit begged for it. And there was people who even made death threats to Insomniac, which Beyond lame, by the way. If you're one of these people, consider yourself an enemy and find no solace in CosmicCast content anymore, because we actually don't condone anything of that sort. Like we don't want you here. Make sure you like the video because we need the stats, and then click off. Seriously. But you guys are cool, so I'm sure you're fine. I'm not talking about you. But one cold December morning, it was probably around 9 a.m. I didn't have to work that day, and I saw there was an update for the game. So I updated, and lo and behold, I was looking at the Raimi suit in Insomniac Spider-Man. Oh yeah, brother. So I did what any sane person would do. And of course, I started a new game so I could replay the game with the Raimi suit on. This was all there was until 2 years later when the PS5 was announced and they announced a new Spider-Man game was dropping. A standalone Miles Morales game. To say I was hyped once again, an understatement. There were no hints of a Spider-Man game even dropping anytime soon. And I was obviously hyped for the PS5. I was gonna get it. I was finally a big boy at this point with a job, so I could actually just like buy the PS5 for myself when it came out, instead of having to hope I get it for Christmas if I begged for it. I remember when the pre-orders for the PS5 went live, I drove to Target to try to snag a pre-order, and the dude at the electronics table told me that they just didn't have any. So I quickly went back to my car, and this part is funny because he was like kind of yapping at me, like explaining things. I'm just like, dude, shut the fuck up. I need to get to my car, dude. I need to get this pre-order. When he finally stopped yapping, I kind of, I got to my car as quickly as I could to try to buy it online. And I have no idea how I was this lucky, but I was actually able to get onto the Target app and I snagged a pre-order for the PS5. And it didn't get canceled, so there's no scalpers, there's no waiting, man. Like, I got the original pre-order for the PS5. And I called my friend literally the second I placed my order, and I told him, dude, you go pre-order this right now. And it's crazy because they did it right away. Like, I'm pretty sure with me on the phone. And it's just like, nope, nope, I can't get it. It's all out. It's all gone. This day was also crazy because that same day, right after I landed that pre-order, I actually drove down to the car dealership to buy my second car. Long story, for different video. It's not this one. And I do wonder how many people bought a PS5 and a car on the same day. If that's you, be sure you like this video. If you have ears and you're able to listen to the audio that's coming out of my mouth right now, be sure to like this video. I think that sums up most of you. So a few months later, I finally get the PS5 in the mail, which came only like 2 days after launch. It launches, it gets sent to you the day it launches, basically. So I didn't have to wait very long. So I also drove down to Best Buy to pick up my copy of Miles Morales and Watch Dogs Legion, and I went home to unbox my PS5 with my brother. And boy, we got to play some Miles Morales that night, and that game was sick. The web swinging was so clean, and it was definitely more refined than it was the first game, but overall, it wasn't like drastically different. It was just, I guess it was just more refined. I did, however, regret Watch Dogs Legion. I played that game for like 3 hours. I don't think I ever touched it again, and I really doubt I would. I know there's a specific so-and-so in the comments who's not gonna be happy I just said that. I'm sorry, I couldn't do it. And then the next PS5 I got when it launched was Cyberpunk 2077, and I was also kind of disappointed by that game. Although I heard it's better now, so I've been meaning to replay it one of these days. I still have the game, so I should just lock in and do it. Despite there being 3 Insomniac Spider-Man games out, I still love and replay Spider-Man Miles Morales a lot. I love the story, the winter New York combined with the Christmas vibes. Instead of being someone who would watch movies like Home Alone to get into the Christmas spirit, I would much rather play Miles Morales to do that. It's perfect. So let's do this whole song and dance one more time because we're at our final game finally. A few years later, they showed off the first teaser for Spider-Man 2, and I was so fucking hyped. The wait for this game was unreal. Seeing Spider-Man in the symbiote suit is always something that gets me excited. And I remember when October finally came around, the month the game was actually coming out, and I was just thinking about the game constantly. I started having dreams like often where I was finally playing the game. I remember like the day or two before the game came out, I had this dream where like I was in like some kind of like military base, and like I was just like looking around and I saw this like vial thing with like the goo in it. I'm like, dude, it's the symbiote. And I was like, now I know how you get the symbiote in this game. And it was just like a sick dream. It's a little cringe. I know. I get really excited for Spider-Man content. I don't know. And the day before it came out, or technically 2 days before it came out, I went to go to sleep that night and I slept for like 3 hours. And then I woke up and the excitement of knowing the game was like just about to come out. I was like, nope, I'm up. And then I'm fully up. You know what I mean? Not like, oh, I'm tossing. Like, nope, I'm awake now. We're good. And I just didn't go back to sleep. I'm like, hell yeah, no, we're good. Let's just kill some time because because the game's about to come out. So then the next day I went to work and I had an incredibly long day at work because I was just trying to kill as much time as possible until I could pick up the game. Anyway, it was October 19th and it was 8:30 p.m., which is great because in California, our midnight releases for games is at 9 p.m. So I drove down to GameStop to wait for my pre-order. And bro, the line was long as hell because Mario Wonder also came out the same day. And I remember being anxious the entire time because I thought there's a chance there wouldn't be enough copies, even though I really doubt that's possible. But nonetheless, I was like, dude, I swear to God, if I finally get up there and they're like, we can't give you the game, we don't have anymore, I'd probably cry. But more realistically, I'd probably cancel my pre-order and go home and then just buy the digital copy and just play because I couldn't do it, bro. Like I had to get the game. But I finally got my copy of Spider-Man 2 by like 9:30, but I was like, dude, holy shit. I remember like having this shit-eating grin on my face as I was like speed walking to my car. So I'm like, I gotta get home now. And the night was especially epic for me because someone who's a huge Blink-182 fan, I'm sorry, sorry if you don't care about this part of it. Their new album dropped at the same exact time at 9 p.m. And his album was a big deal for Blink fans for reasons that's not really worth going into for this video. But I got to listen to brand new Blink-182 music I was super hyped for while I drove home to go and install Spider-Man 2. Excitement overload, bro. The only thing that sucked though was because I wanted the disc, I had to wait until I was home to install the game. And then once I was finally installing it, it took like 45 minutes because even though my internet was good, there's limitations to how fast it can, read speed is on a disc. But once the game finally installed, I was floored by the amazing graphics, the spectacle, theatrics, and of course, the amazing gameplay. The web swinging was so clean. It felt so fast, and the web wings were sick. My dream of finally playing Spider-Man 2 came true. I'm going to avoid any major spoilers, so unless I warn you otherwise, there's no reason to click off the video if you haven't played it yet. But I'm like 99% sure that I'm not going to spoil anything that's really a spoiler, so I wouldn't worry about it. But again, I'll let you know if there is, so don't be like, oh shit, I didn't play the game, I want to buy. Now, after just saying that, this first thing I'm going to say is a little ironic, but it's fine. You start the game fighting Sandman. And like I said, the gameplay here was insane. It felt like I was actually playing a next-gen game. The graphics upgrade from Miles Morales to this game, it can be a little subtle sometimes, but when you do catch the differences, in my opinion, it's like kind of mind-boggling. Like the two things I notice most when I see the graphics of this game is I would say like the quality of the fabric, like for the suits. Like it just looks so realistic. Like I don't know how to describe it. Like you think about like the texture of like a fabric Band-Aid. It's kind of like the fabric texture look to like Spider-Man's costume, and it looks real. Like it looks so detailed. And the buildings in New York definitely have a shinier coat onto them, and they look real. Sometimes I forget that it's a video game. Oh, and the skyboxes in this game, beautiful. They have some great fucking skies in the game. It looks phenomenal, at least to me. The wait felt long, but before I knew it, I was finally at the part of the story where you get the symbiote suit. And oh man, that shit was awesome. The new powers were cool. The suit looks sick. And it's some of my favorite evil Peter I've seen in media. Granted, I haven't really read any of the comics outside of the Ultimate Comics. So right now I'm strictly referring to movies and games. But hearing the things Peter would say while he was under the influence of the symbiote, it's just like, oh, like I was excited the entire time. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe he just said that. Fighting crime around the city while Peter was just a bully was so much fun. And I enjoy that part of the game the most when I replay the game. I'm currently on my 4th or 5th playthrough. I know, a little sad to admit, it's only been a little over a year, but I love it. Despite how great this game is, though, there are aspects of it that even someone like me, biased for my love for the series, can agree is a bit disappointing. For starters, I think they nailed the symbiote arc with what time they had for it. However, it's a bit too short in my opinion. Again, I may be biased because it's my favorite segment of the game, but I feel if they were able to squeeze like 2 main missions and a side mission or something, then the arc just would have been perfect. Like it would have been enough time. It would have been great. However, they take the suit away from me just when I was getting settled in to being bully Lowenthal. In the same vein, there's no way to skirt around this grievance. The third act was rushed, like really rushed. I actually can't believe this game launched like this. They had the sauce needed to make the game go out with a boom, and it even had it even had a really badass fucking final boss fight, and it was indeed a spectacle, and it was not disappointing. But the rest of the third act of the game was way too fast. We even noticed it was the end of the game. I thought Insomniac would at least make up for this with DLC until after an entire fucking year, they finally tell us that there wouldn't be any DLC coming out. I would have accepted no DLC if they at least said something from the beginning, but waiting a year to do so was a little bit of a dick move in my opinion. And look, I don't care if it's toxic for the fan base to go off the assumption that because the first game had DLC, that the second game would likely have DLC as well. And with how rushed the third act was, and with the subsequent leaks that confirmed what the DLC would have been shortly after the game came out, it wasn't unreasonable to assume the entire time that there's eventually going to be DLC. Who knows what internal reasons led to it being scrapped? Maybe it was the Insomniac leak. Maybe they didn't even know for a while themselves if they were going to be doing it or not until Sony pulled the plug. But my honest guess was that the DLC was likely scrapped early in the process of developing the game, which is why there wasn't really much to go off of from the leaks in regards to what the DLC was going to be. People on Reddit would use the excuse often that, oh, Insomniac just had a huge leak. They couldn't possibly take 5 seconds to go on Twitter and be like, there's not going to be DLC, dog. I don't know what to tell you. And they also blame the leak for being the reason that the DLC got canceled. But that's just absurd. That's absolutely not the reason why the DLC was canceled. Another problem I had with the game was they completely fucked up New Game Plus. For the numpties that don't know what New Game Plus is, do you know how in video games you unlock suits and powers and stuff throughout the game? And you usually don't have every single power up until like the very end of the game. So like you unlock the coolest power up that like can just like kill dudes by just like farting on them. But you can only use it for like a mission or two and then the game's over. It's like, well, that was fun for like 20 minutes. Well, with New Game Plus, you get to replay the story, except you start off having all your suits and power-ups unlocked. And so now you can just fart on dudes for the entire game. So you're probably wondering, how could Insomniac mess up New Game Plus? Well, for starters, it took 5 months after the game release until we finally got it. 5 months. For comparison, I think we had New Game Plus within a month for the first Spider-Man game. And I think Miles Morales had it day one. Don't quote me on that. I'm not a fucking genius. All right, calm down, guy. It's not that serious. It's a video. If you came to the Cosmics for news and correct information, I genuinely fear for you. Now, for more reasons why I don't like New Game Plus and why I actually don't play it, I don't think I finished an entire game with New Game Plus. And admittedly, this is 100% a nitpick. You can judge me if you want for this. That's fine. I understand. I acknowledge that I'm a weirdo. But even though I like playing the game with alternate suits, I mean, who doesn't? New suits are cool. I tend to stick with the vanilla suits in game because I like to be immersed in the game's story. Again, like I stated earlier, I really like story games and I like replaying stories. I don't care if I replayed it 5 times. I'll still enjoy it the 7th, 8th, 9th time. But due to some technical limitations, I would imagine, with the moments in the game where you receive the black suit and when you also take it off, it ruins cutscenes for me in New Game Plus. Like, for example, let's say you have the Amazing Spider-Man 2 suit on and you get to the mission where you get the symbiote. Instead of the symbiote covering Spider-Man's body and then giving him the black suit, the symbiote covers Peter's body and then it will just turn back into the Amazing Spider-Man 2 suit. Canonically wise, it doesn't make any sense. Yeah, I know that, oh, it can manifest itself to different clothes. Oh. Yeah, but like that wouldn't happen though at the first scene when Peter gets the symbiote. It would cover his entire body. I know it's a nitpick, but it annoys me personally. You know, it's subjective and that's fun. Most people don't care. They just want to like start the game off with having symbiote abilities. Guy, fuck that Discord. If you heard it, it's fine. We're going to roll with it. I don't feel like saying what I just said. But I don't get why, if you have the default Insomniac Advanced 2.0 Spider-Man suit, that when you do that mission where you get the symbiote, why wouldn't the cutscene just play as if it was the base game? In fact, Miles Morales handled this mechanic great in New Game Plus for that game. Like if you're wearing the default Miles Morales Spider-Man suit, the one you're supposed to be wearing when a certain cutscene happens, a character in that game gives you like a scarf and a beanie or a toque for you Canadians. And like it actually like goes on Miles and like it becomes a new permanent suit. And then there's a few other examples, I think, but we're getting off topic here. Like Miles Morales did this concept great. And on top of all that, there's like little things missing. And I think they're just like bugs. And to this day, I don't believe they've been patched. I can't really get too much into details without potentially spoiling anything. So I'm just not gonna. It's not worth it. I may eventually consider getting the game on PC because I don't mind supporting Insomniac and it'd be cool to play on PC. But especially so there'll be mods, I'm sure, that will fix the issues that I'm complaining about. I would have to upgrade my computer though, because despite having an RTX 4070, to fully enjoy these games, you need a pretty powerful CPU. These games, the ray tracing is pretty CPU intensive. At least I believe it is. I play the first Spider-Man game and I can't really play with ray tracing on. There's just too many frame drops, especially when it's raining. So I had to play without it. But otherwise, I was able to play on the highest graphics. So I'm really not sure. I think the game had some great moments and I still love the game. But after everything, it doesn't beat the first game. The story of the first game is 10 out of 10, for me at least. And Spider-Man 2, I would probably rate it a solid 7.5 out of 10, maybe an 8 out of 10. We'll roll with 8 out of 10, so I'm a little biased. It really does have a great story in my opinion, but I think it needed more time in the oven. Truthfully, I was hoping a director's cut would drop for Spider-Man 2, which would fix probably all my problems with the game, especially since they were mostly just me yearning for more content. And a director's cut would be the perfect opportunity to add in extra missions. But considering it's been over a year and the PC port is dropping here pretty soon, and Insomniac is clearly busy with the Wolverine game, Hope has fizzled out and died for there being a director's cut. And it's like, it is what it is. It's a shame because I think if they went in and padded the game out with a few extra missions, a couple side missions, and a suit or two, it would be a 10 out of 10 game for me. While I'm still a little disappointed in Spider-Man 2, I still believe it was a phenomenal game. And if you haven't played it and you like the first game, I have to urge you, please play the game. You'd really be missing out if you didn't. Aside from the obvious villains that are going to be in the next installment, I'm really unsure what to expect from Spider-Man 3. And honestly, I don't really have any notes or expectations for this one. I think it was more important that they nailed the second game. For me, considering that it's the game with the symbiote suit, which it's kind of a big deal. Like, it's a really cool arc and like you can do a lot of cool things with that. I'm not sure why. I had big expectations. And although Insomniac did deliver a pretty big load into my mouth, I mean, wait, what? I still think the game could have been greater. Pretty sure the tagline for the game is be greater together. How about just be greater and give me more content, motherfuckers? I do think they have a lot of sauce for the third game, like ready to cook. So all Insomnia has to do is just do one more lap. Just really nail it down. I have no idea whether or not to expect any more Spidey games from Insomniac after Spider-Man 3, but I will say one thing for sure. I will be pretty bummed when the series ends and Sony ultimately moves on to a new developer to create a new Spider-Man franchise in the future. I have a really tough time believing any other developer would give the same amount of TLC and passion as Insomniac did for the series thus far. Like, the only other developer I could potentially see maybe doing a good job is maybe Naughty Dog, but then Neil Druckmann would probably have like MJ murdering Peter just because, and now Miles has to go and chase her down or some bullshit. Gotta subvert expectations. No, they'd probably have someone like Screwball just killing Spider-Man. Wouldn't that just piss you off? And more importantly, I can't imagine any other actor being a better Spider-Man than Yuri Lowenthal. Again, this is subjective, so don't cut my throat open. I know we've had some great Spider-Mans like Josh Keaton and Christopher Daniel Barnes. And honestly, I thought Drake Bell's Spider-Man was pretty solid. Oh, and let's not forget Neil Patrick Harris, who played Spidey in the MTV Spider-Man series. Oh, and Shattered Dimensions, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know why I said if I'm not mistaken. I 100% knew he was in that. Just wanted to be a little more cash. But I do believe this concludes my solo episode of the Cosmic Cast. Let me be the one to finally admit, I think it's weird to do solo episodes for a podcast with 4 hosts. Like, it's not really what a podcast is for. But I'm just thinking personally, if I was listening to my own podcast, like if I was listening to the Gus and Eddie podcast, rest in peace, it was just like, oh, today's episode is Eddie. There's just no one to bounce off of. It's just like Eddie talking to a brick wall. Oh, you guys don't know Gus and Eddie. Gus Johnson, Eddie Burback. Gus got canceled. It's whatever. But you guys seem to be enjoying them, so I'm glad you do. I hope you enjoyed mine. Admittedly, I was kind of dreading producing this solo episode. Laziness aside, there was just an added pressure being the last to go, especially with Jason's episode being just like so personal and seemingly like the best received episode. I knew it would be a struggle to compete. However, it then occurred to me that it wasn't about it being a competition, and it was more about talking about something you're passionate about. I thought about talking about my years here on YouTube, considering the fact that I've been around since 2010, or my music producing venture, or even my love for handmade leather products like boots. You guys probably heard me talk about liking boots all the time. But then it occurred to me that I have a passion in life that cuts way deeper than the rest of these. And it's, it's something I'll always have. And it's not really interesting. It's not a hobby. It's not a skill, but it's just something I care about. It's something I'm passionate about. It's Spider-Man. So I'm glad I finally had the opportunity to talk about it. Fun fact, I recorded a 1 to 2 hour commentary years ago about my love for the first Insomniac Spider-Man game, but without a script. It was just super incoherent and it was all over the place, and it got to a point where I didn't even attempt to produce the video past recording the commentary. So once again, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Next week the full cast should be back, and I do believe we're filming the Secret Santa bit again, so be sure to tune in for that. Oh, and as always, I have to shoehorn in my repetitive bits just to piss you off. So I'm gonna go drink some fermented piss. Wait, I'm gonna do it right now. I was gonna do it after the episode. I'm gonna do it now. Hang on. Before I crash out. Also, Area K Super Gaming Dude was undoubtedly and beyond a shadow of a doubt there on January 6th, 2021. Also, don't ask Ari where he was December 4th, 2024.